Get underway. I'll call this meeting to order. Terry, you want to take us through our clerk's report of compliance?
I'm certainly happy to do that. In compliance with the Freedom of Information Act, notice of this meeting and agenda were posted and furnished to all news media and persons requesting notification.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lewis, if you'll just update us on our fuel system status and any news on the AWOS.
Just one, if you might just reflect for the record that the people, the committee members who are here, so that the record can show that you don't have Mr. Folger here, sits on the board, Mr. Rich Dean, David, etc., and now Avery Cleveland here, so that the minutes have everybody reflect. That's all.
Good afternoon. Members present tonight, Chairman Avery Cleveland, Vice Chairman Richard Dean, Mr. Baylor O'Kane, Mr. James Williams.
Thank you.
Okay, we're at number 2. I just asked Mr. Lucas for an update on the status of our fuel system and our AWOS.
Looks like the AWOS might be installed sometime in June. The fuel farm, though, the electrical feed had to be redesigned for it. So therefore, that'll have to go out for a bid. So we're looking at that maybe late May. So they're both about the same time. However, the commissioning for the AWOS by the Federal Communications Commission has not been established yet because we're a little bit far out. So can't tell you exactly when it'll be operational, but we expect the construction to be complete by the first week of June.
That doesn't have to be bid. We already have the vendor
What?
for the AWOS.
Oh yes, that was done years ago.
Okay. Thank you. Over, sir. Number 3.
Number 3, staff fuel purchases and standardized monthly reports.
I did receive the fuel expenditures from Mr. Tedder. I've been through those. I'll just touch on the highlights. I think this, from day one and through the last week of January, avgas 8,265 gallons, and for a total cost of $55,185 for the expenditures. And with Jet A, 27,138 gallons, and get a cost of $106,501, 64 cents. Other information we got from Mr. Lucas was on gallons updated. Well, everybody should receive that via email. So no comments on that. Thank you for the information.
Item number 4 is the business license process for airport-based businesses.
Mr. Dean. We received this document. Thank you, Mr. Lucas, for the information. One question there is that in section 2 there, internal use only, where it says use regulations permitted, subject to conditions or not allowed. Do we have some specific criteria that you evaluate by? Can you share that with us?
Well, the criteria would be the uses that are actually allowed on a federally obligated airport. So that document there takes the place of the prior document that had some zoning language in it that's confusing to some people, and it's really inappropriate for an airport because airports aren't zoned in the same sense that you have agricultural, commercial, industrial, residential properties, so to speak. So the business license would then be triggered by that document there, based upon what the applicant is proposing to do. Then, if they need a business license, then they would go through the process of getting a business license. The regular way, like everybody else, that's required to have a business license would approach the county. So, if someone has a business, an existing business, and they don't have a business license, they may contact the airport, we send them to the right people and go through the process of acquiring a business license. If someone's operating a business and they need a business license, then that's a situation where they can approach the airport, or the airport will approach them and notify them that it appears that they would need a business license. But again, on that document right there, it states the use of the property. What is it that they are conducting on the property? Of course, if you have a hangar and it's for personal storage, you don't need a business license for that.
Right.
It's just storing your own airplane for your own uses, personal use. Even if you use the airplane for business, that's not a business purpose.
So the criteria is simply what is allowed by the FAL, federally obligated airports.
That's where it starts, and it ends with the county.
If I could picture, under the state's statute that tells us how businesses have to be classified for business license purposes, there's a standardized format, classifications related to the North American Industrial Classification System. You take the type of business it is, what's being done, you stick it in the right category for the NICS. It then takes you to the classification rate, that then takes you to what do you owe based on gross income. And all the definitions for the state statute that tells us what to do.
So when we look that up, an airport falls under the category of transportation, the broad category of transportation. Then we take it from there.
Do we have any current businesses who have applied for licenses and have not received them?
We have one business that was looking for a business license, but there are other prerequisites to them acquiring a business license. And they have been notified as to what those prerequisites are.
Beyond what's on here?
Correct.
Okay. I think that's where I was trying to get was what are the prerequisites beyond here?
That's on the county side?
Yeah, it's the county side.
County side.
Okay, that's, to me, that's the key piece there, helping people understand. I want to apply for a license here. Let me know all the prerequisites, so I'm fully prepared and I know what to do, and it does not create delays. There shouldn't be a mystery in the process there. That should be right up front. People, can we get what that criteria is?
Well, the person that I'm thinking of, or the business that I'm thinking of, he already knows what the prerequisites are and where he is or she is deficient.
Okay, I understand that. But can you share those prerequisites with us?
I'm not going to go into the individual circumstance. We've already discussed that some time ago.
I think he's asking for a form that someone applying could know what the prerequisites are.
Well, let's say you have an existing hangar. And let's say that your lease payments are in arrears. You bring the lease payments up to speed, provide your insurance documents that are required for the specific type of business that you're operating, okay? And then those are the broad prerequisites that you would need to satisfy in order to get it, because the business license comes at the end of the process.
So let me understand, it's a two-pronged attack, pretty much. You have the airport portion, and then it's just the normal business license process that any other business would go through.
Correct.
So once they satisfy the airport portion, then they must go through the normal process that any other business within the county would have to go through.
Correct.
Okay.
But the airport has to approve of them acquiring a business license to operate at the airport premises.
Right.
Under your hangar guidelines that you have, aren't those on the website also for construction of doesn't it have the prerequisites in that document that's
Yeah,
on there? Okay.
You're correct. If you were constructing a new hangar, well, let's say it's an existing hangar, and as I mentioned before, the big issue is, let's say the lease payments are in arrears.
Okay. I
You gotta be in
understand.
good standing.
Gotta be in good
Gotta
standing.
be in good
Gotta be
standing.
up to their taxes paid, leases up to par, up to date.
Well, now, the airport takes no position on the payment of your personal taxes.
The county does.
Yeah, that's a different issue, that's not the airport, that's a different entity. So, the airport is concerned about the lease payments, the insurance for the business that's being contemplated, or perhaps the business that's already in existence.
I think the county would be concerned about their taxes also, or you're in the arrears or not.
Well, it kind of would be, I'm just saying that that's not.
Yeah, it's a separate
the airport's
entity.
concern.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't want to have that be
I got
conflated.
you, I got you, all right.
Okay, so, I'll ask you once again, the prerequisites that are not here, can you put those in a one-page document that we will know for the future? Anybody that's thinking about starting a business, it's pretty simple. Here are the forms, get your stuff together, come back and see me.
Yeah.
That'd be great, because it's kind of like going to any other, like going to the DMV or any county office, city office, state office. It's so much easier if you know what you need when you get there, instead of having to make a lot of trips and losing time and wasting your time as well. Thank you. The number 5 is staff approved hangar lease templates and terms. And this is regards, I guess, or parentheses, the Oakland option 8.
Yeah, that was left over from our last meeting. We weren't able to find a recorded lease that matched that template. We look into that.
Well, it's very simple, okay? The particular person involved asked us to get direction from county council. We did. What that lease is was a one-off at the direction of the council. It does the same thing as the template lease does. It says, in effect, 5 years, take your stuff and so with if you want. It wasn't a reversionary clause in that, it was a non-reversionary clause in there. That's the standard lease template that you have. And just to be clear, when you look at these, when you look at the surrender of possession provision, and whichever one you look at the very bottom of the template, and it says it's going to be modified depending on the type of lease that was there before. If the prior lease said the property can be removed within typically 60 days, that's what the new lease is going to say. If the old lease said it's the property of the county, which is a reversionary clause, that's the language that's going to be there unless there's something else negotiated. So it changes depending on what the prior lease that's expired had in it. That was the direction we got, and we put in the policy.
Okay, that's in the current lease policy, or is that something?
That's in the current lease policy. It's in about 3 different places, including the ordinance itself, policy, and the reversionary policy.
Right, so just to be clear, that the lease template itself does not have to be approved by council. It can be adjusted based on their
It can be adjusted only dependent upon what's the reversionary and the prior lease. We can always go to county council directly on an appeal that's provided in there. We get the county council to weigh in on it. If there's a disagreement with the staff's negotiated and presented lease.
Thank you.
And just so, there was a big difference between the 2 leases y'all brought to me last time. One of them had renewal terms in it that were still available. The other one absolutely did not. It was over with, it had been expired. That's why there's a big difference between the 2 of them. And I didn't have the stuff with me to be able to look at it at the time.
Yeah, I understood that part of it. Thank you.
Okay, next is item number 6, staff, hangar lease payment processing follow-up.
One of the things we talked about in our last meeting, and we had leases that appear to be valid and they're not processing. You guys have not processed checks. We were told you'd look into that. We got any feedback on
that it's our direction that when we receive a lease payment, we're gonna look at the lease to see if it's currently in good standing. Have we got the insurance, those types of things there before we accept that? Is so many of these people, quite frankly, have sent us checks where they have expired leases.
Right.
Right? We are not going to accept those checks. What we did wrong was we should have sent them back, and we should have put them on notice they had to address those things. That's the new process we're gonna have, is if there's an issue, there'll be a response, and it's either dealt with or it's not dealt with, and chips fall depending on which road things, go at that particular point. But to be clear, there's a big difference between a tenant at sufferance holding over and an accord and satisfaction. Mr. Queen, you would take a half payment of a check on a full load of asphalt because you don't want to be brought into the discussion about whether or not that was an agreed upon price to take it on that. That's the basis for that. We could handle it better, we'll handle it better in the future.
I understand on the issue of leases that have expired or just that don't exist. The issue we were talking about in the fall was on leases that are valid.
Okay, so then
there's leases that are valid, but they're terminable if they are not in good standing. If you don't do what you're supposed to do out there, then your lease is terminated, and that's what happens when we look at these leases on an annualized basis. Some of these folks have sent in checks for 3 to 5 years at a time, and that may be they're right under some things, but if it's a renewal of a lease, we're going to be looking very hard at what's there, because so many leases, and y'all know this, there's so many expired leases out there that need to be done, so many leases that aren't compliant. That's why we set up a year ago to try to set up individual meetings. Some of you attended to try and go through that. We have multiple people who will not meet with us, and they've got to be businesslike and come to us and act in a business-like manner so we can keep our stuff, because we are under directives from the FAA, and you can read in the files, and I've given to you the policy manuals that y'all work out of, what they told us to do with these expired leases or leases not good standing. We're under a directive to get them taken care of.
I understand and appreciate that.
On the county level, there are 2 items that are important, at least 2 that are important to the renewal of an existing lease, the acceptance of a payment on an existing lease, or what have you. One is something as simple as having the hangar inspected. The inspection requirement is in the lease. Okay, having the hangar inspected. That's the easy part. The other part is, who is the rightful owner of the hangar? The person sending the check, is he or she or they the rightful owners of the hangar? Who is it that we're talking to? Let's say it's a limited liability corporation, and one person sends a check in. Okay, who are the officers of the LLC? Who is it that we're really talking to? What's the structure here? There's another situation where someone says, hey, I did my part, I don't know about these other guys. Well, who are the other guys that we're talking to, or that we're referring to, or that they're referring to? That's the kind of information. And of course, we would have gone through that with each individual hangar owner had they met with us back in October and or November of 2022. I sent a current hangar owner a letter, well actually it was an email, and a brand new lease, it was a replacement lease, months ago. Took the amount of time that was in the current lease, added it to what he would be afforded going forward when the current lease expires in 2025, and that ends the whole thing. It goes all the way to the very end. And the communication that I got back from the person didn't seem to indicate that they really were following what it was that I was getting at. So we have those kind of miscommunications or misunderstandings and so forth. But the other two are fairly basic. The hangar inspection requirement that's in the lease, and then who actually owns the hangar. Especially when it's a situation where the lease expired back in, let's say, 2014. And here's a lady coming and she says that she is the new owner of the hangar. And she may or may not have a bill of sale, but what she doesn't have is a lease or a lease that was assigned.
What we were focused on when we talked about valid leases, we're talking about leases in good standing. For example, a lease that doesn't expire, it's a 20-year lease. It doesn't expire until 2037. That lease term calls for a payment every 5 years for a specific amount. They sent their check approaching a year ago, never been processed. And that's what we're trying to understand. Have we communicated back to these people and said we don't know who owns the hangar?
In the situation that I can think of where a lease might be expiring somewhere around 2037, no inspection has been scheduled, no meeting that would have occurred, any communication would have occurred on behalf of the hangar owner back in October of 2022 or November of 2022. No record of who actually owns the hangar, who are the members, who are the officers, who's involved in this hangar ownership situation.
We communicated that back to those.
That has been communicated back to the person I spoke to in person. Now this is years ago.
But if I could, I think the point I'm trying to make, and I discussed with the administrator today and today, is creating a process that if a check comes in, there will be a more timely response as to whether you're compliant, non-compliant, or if something is needed, so it can be addressed and move forward and figure it out. That requires cooperation from the other side. And that's one of the issues we had when we first tried to schedule all the meetings with the pilots. So we're going to redouble our efforts, do a little bit better in writing to say, okay, we need A, B, or C, and hopefully they'll respond accordingly and we can move forward.
That'll be a big improvement.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, that way they say, okay, well, I need to schedule my inspection. I need to get this done before I can renew. Basically, you got to be in compliant for these criteria. So I get it. Sometimes they just don't want to do it. They say, my lease went up in on a rate. Am I going to get another 10-year, or is it just going to be it's the new lease? So they can have questions. That's just getting an email and saying your lease is due, and you're right. There needs to be a checklist for sure. So I think I'll streamline it anyway. It's a lot of different leases out there, different answers and questions.
If I might on that, I think that it's going to be incumbent upon the tenants to treat this like a business and keep everything in writing. We're used to, historically, the airport manager being out there, you'd see him several times a day and you talk to him and address issues. And that has not been like that for years. So I think we're going to have to put everything in writing, treat it like a business, keep copies of it, copy whoever you need to copy on it, and that way there will be less potential for misunderstanding on behalf of either side. That's what I'm working on. Item number 7, the South Carolina Aeronautics Commission process for estimated revenue generation.
That was another item from our last meeting. hoping to get an explanation of that in this meeting. Or how the Aeronautics Commission goes about, I think the most recent number I heard is that we're generating about $10 million in revenue here by having this airport. Is there a particular formula that they use to come up with this?
Well, I mean, if I were you, I would ask the South Carolina Aeronautics Commission
We
about
asked
the
you guys last
methodology that
time.
they use for,
Yeah.
the last report that I looked at was from 2018. So I'd ask them about the methodology that they use for the 2018 report, and in fact, whether they have an updated report since then. If they do, I'm sure it would be on their website.
I'm not interested in the number, I'm interested in how they get to the number. Andy?
Yeah, I can just tell you, we don't know. We don't have any idea. In fact, we don't have any input into it. So they do it somehow from Department of Commerce from that level. And I think Danny's right. I think the last time I looked at their website was 2018.
Correct.
I haven't seen a new one since, and that may be because they've changed some staff up there. But I believe that organization hires a consultant that does that for every airport, and they could probably justify the methodology. I just have no idea what it is.
And if I'm just roughly familiar, the method they use is very similar to the Department of Commerce, and they use the circulation of the dollar based on the economic flow of that geographical location, population. They throw a bunch of equations in there, and based upon the activity, it generates a number. It is a unique science.
How you interpret it?
Yeah, but it is very common on the economic side of economic flow. So, but it is a
Well, in economics, they call it the multiplier effect.
Yeah.
So, one guy pays a dry cleaner $1 for something or another. The dry cleaner pays his staff.
Same amount.
Each of the staff members spend money somewhere else in town.
Correct.
And so the more times that money circulates in town, the better.
I'll reach out to the Aeronautics Commission.
There's nobody out there counting how many airplanes land every day.
But they use almost like the generalization of reading me, based upon what these 7 meters, you don't have to read the 8th one, but based on what you get from the first 7, it will tell you what the 8th one does. So they use size of airport, size of municipality, et cetera. But as Mr. Luke was sharing, the number of times that the dollar changes hands, on average, the multiplier is 8. So it is quite a unique science, or pseudoscience.
And it sounds like a guess to me. And it sounds like a guess to me.
It's swag, and I'll leave it at that. Okay, thank you. Let's move on to.
Okay, we have related on here with the presentation and a request for action regarding an FAA policy clarification. Lee, could you speak with us, please?
Sure. There's been some new information come out from the AFPA, and there are also most recent change to FAR 5190-60, I believe, and a couple other things that have suggested to me that it might be useful for county council to consider reworking or reviewing, readdressing their lease policy. And I provided all that information to the Aircraft Commission, and I think maybe with their advice and council, they could make some recommendations to county council about where we stand with respect to 5160. I keep saying wrong, 5190-6B as it stands right now. There's quite a few cases that have gone to court that suggest that some of the things I think that we're doing here in this county are probably not meant to be done by the federal government, and we ought to at least take a look at whether or not we're on the right side of those new regulations, the changes to the regulations. I think it would be very helpful for everyone to be on the same page there. And would invite county commission, airport commission, to take a look at those suggestions and see if maybe you could advise county council as to how they might or might not want to change the lease policy. If you just do it based on local information, you may run into trouble. There are some big airports where they run into trouble with the law, and court cases have been decided that would run counter the way we're doing things here, in my opinion. So you guys take a look at it if you like, and make your analysis available to county council, and see if you can do the meeting in mind.
Has there ever been any official rulings from the FAA about
Oh,
these
yeah.
policy
Oh,
changes?
yeah, there are. There's, I think in my list, I think there are 4, maybe 5 airports where they've gone to court over reversion clauses and so forth in various lease agreements between various airports. And most of these airports are quite larger than Ridgeland. There's 3 or 4 of them that are actually towered airports where they're not allowed anybody to revert hangars. It's difficult for me to imagine that the FAA, and I don't think this is true, the FAA is working on clearing that up, that the FAA intended that 6,000 counties in the United States would go out to all the airports in those counties and suddenly grab up all the hangars. That's because many hangar owners at the airports in the 6,000 cities, with the many cities in the 6,000 counties around the United States, as we have it as Ridgeland, that's 2.5 million hangars, I think, something like that. And if they're worth on average 100,000 apiece, that's $22 billion worth of hangars. I'm pretty sure the FAA never intended that there'd be a value grab like that on the basis of having a limit that somebody's running.
Right. Well, being controlled and non-controlled airports both are in this.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So the Class C's, V's.
Yeah. Well, the Alamogordo, New Mexico is, I think it's a 9,000-foot runway.
Right.
So, I mean, you could put 3, well, 2 or 2.5 prisons in there, in that airport. And there's lots of them are in big cities. Of course, a lot of counties have got more than one hangar, or more than one airport too.
Right,
So
in the county, right.
that's put a lot of personal property at risk, if that's what the FAA meant. And I don't think that they ever meant that, and I think the court cases are beginning to pile up in that arena. Yeah. So you guys could do the county a favor by putting some aviation thought into this and tell the county what you think.
Be glad to.
Mr. Chairman, you asked if there was a specific FAA ruling.
Yes, if there was
In
a
your
statute change.
materials that I provided you when we first set up, I provided you with several long letters from the FAA.
I asked for a new ruling. I didn't ask for anything you have existing already shown. I was just asking if there was a new ruling about this. I
It's not a new
understand
ruling. The latest report, in fact, I have a letter from last month, March, from the FAA telling me to get on the stick and clean up the methodology out there at the airport. Policy and lease templates that you have before you were specifically examined by the FAA. And their letter back to us said, upon review of the county's response letter and the sample aeronautical ground leases, ASO 620, that's them in Atlanta, our division, not California, has not observed any issues regarding how private hangars will be disposed of by the county at the airport tenant ground lease agreements, right? They specifically looked at what we had and they said it's okay. Furthermore, they went on there to talk about this private confiscation allegation that's been raised for the last 2 years. It's bull, right? They say, all right, when a private entity, the hangar constructor and private tenant, continues to own and control what has been erected on airport property, the property is considered to be encumbered. We are not allowed to encumber the property. In fact, they said the airport and county should immediately seek to hold non-compliant private hangar owners, those that don't have leases that have been expired or are non-compliant, should immediately seek to hold them legally accountable using local processes so that the county can retain total control of the leased airport land for all expired ground leases of land still encumbered by improvements. Even the article that Mr. Logan provided you tells you that reversionary clauses, and most of the leases out there do not have reversionary clauses in them. They have take it at the end, right? They specifically bless that in that article. They say that is a valid way to end the termination of leases. I'm going to provide you the 4 pages again out of that letter from the FAA to me that says our policies that I worked on for over a year with other people's help, including the South Carolina Aeronautics Commission, to come up with are valid, they're good, they're fair, and they respect what everybody expected to get when they signed their prior lease.
I assert that's not correct. So why don't we let these guys take a look at it?
Because it's not within their purview to do something and provide advice to Weston Council ounce for. It's not in the statute, the ordinance. It says this is an advisory group. They have specific goals. The county council, which you wrote a letter to, if they choose to ask them for it, they can. But I've plowed this ground 4 different times. I don't know how many meetings we've had over this, public meetings with the council and others. I'm sorry that you don't like what you signed before.
Well, I never signed any such thing. I'm
What
sure
you had before said you got to take it at the end of your lease. Did it not?
No, it did not.
Yes, the prior lease did.
No, it did not.
It said, I've got it right here. It says at the end, the prior lease, the one you had, said,
Gentlemen.
at the end of that, you can take it when you want.
This is out of order. So, Mr. Chairman, like I said, we do have pretty much most of the information on both sides already at our disposal. You know, it's been provided to us. I think it is our responsibility to be as astute on it as possible, and and just so that if we are ever asked by council, we can speak intelligently to it. But other than that, we will just make sure that we have full grasp of that information that's been provided to us on both sides, and if and when we are inquired by the council, then we will be up to speed to speak on the intelligence.
I agree with all that. There's also members on this committee that have wishes to sign and update. So it's important to us, this is important to the county and the pilots. So I was going to ask if you guys had a copy. Obviously, I don't have to work with them.
Mr. Chairman, are you talking about Mr. Logan's letter?
Sorry?
A copy of Mr. Logan's letter? Is that what you're
Yes.
talking? Yeah. I think it was
Yeah,
part of the packet. Yeah, the way he's written it there, I think he's suggesting that you recommend that county council take a look at it. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think that's what he said. And
That's all I asked.
he attended at the last county council meeting and made the same statement that he thought that could be forthcoming.
I invited them to consider whether or not this ought to be reviewed in the light of new information that we've just gotten within the last couple, 3 weeks.
Well, it's a legal issue, and except for Mr. Taylor related, so I think it's one that the attorneys have to continue to figure out. If anybody thinks there's opposition to it. Well, I guess anything else to be said on this?
Is there anything that prevents this commission from sending a letter to council to review this information?
That's part of our purpose.
Yeah, part of our purpose.
It's part of our purpose.
Yeah.
So that's why I said, there's no harm in getting the information. Most of it we already have. It's been provided to us. Just make sure that we know it, can speak intelligent to it, when asked, or if we choose as a group, as a body, to submit a documentation to council. That's part of our preview. So either way, but it's just something that I think the best thing we can do is make sure that we are clear and concise on how the information is.
Sure. I would imagine most of the council knows about it already anyway, but, so, I guess we'll all take it under consideration further. Anybody else?
Have any other comments on that?
Okay, next item, moving right along here is going to be public comments, and we're going to limit those to 3 minutes each, please.
This is to.
Jack Sager is going to speak.
And
Please stand, Jack.
Yeah, how many people were interviewed for the airport manager job when Danny Lucas was hired?
I don't recall. I'll have to check
Was
that
there
out.
any? Or what is what should I say really is, what is the county's policy on hiring?
Well,
I'm going to interrupt here, right? public comment is a public comment. It is not for a question and answer.
That's correct. That is correct.
I'm happy to talk with you
Okay,
offline,
well, I'm
Jack.
just curious about that.
I'll talk with you offline about that.
That's correct. Any matters that's brought up, we can submit for response. Anyone else? Having been no one else, we'll close the public comment section. Commission members, questions, comments? Good. If no kind of questions or comments,
Well, I do have one comment.
Please.
We understand that a lot of these matters are matters that have a lot of intensity, and they impact our county, our beloved airport, our staff, and the citizens of Jasper County at large, and the respected owners who have business with the airport. I think it's incumbent on us to remain civil and businesslike so that we can resolve these issues, even though they're high level and highly emotional. It's important that we work together to find a solution that is the proper solution for the task at hand. I think as long as we're fair and equitable in seeking those solutions, I think we're doing our job. We just want to understand. We understand that it's emotional, and we will do our due diligence to come up with the right solutions, the right advisement to take to council.
Well, the reason it gets emotional is because people are trying to take other people's property that they pay for. I mean, that's just a comment. And that's why it gets emotional. I've even heard people go, well, don't let this get personal. Well, somebody steals my car out of my driveway. Yeah, well,
But
I don't know what you're talking about.
so, but that's my comment, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? I agree with you, and this is, it's a painful process, educating everyone on new information, and we have new information that we're all having to deal with. The county has been, although we don't necessarily like all their answers all the time, the county has been patient about the application of this. It could have been sending out demand letters 2 years ago that we didn't like. So the county has been patient about this. We do hope for a equally beneficial outcome. And I think that the education is painful, and but it's happening, and I think it won't be long before things smooth out. I appreciate the patience of all involved. We'll all continue to try to bring us all together. And the county is being patient because they could drop the hammer and tell us sign or move immediately for some of us. So I appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman, I think you made a valid point. I just want to say this to staff and those present. One thing about living and residing in a county like Jasper is that they do care, because the county could take a position, draw a line, and be done, but they care enough to listen and try to reach a resolution that's in the best interest of all. And I think there's something to be said about that. I think as we do get emotional, we need to realize that even in the foresight of creating this commission, because of the nature that the airport and the intensity over it, to do something to go above and beyond, to have an advisory commission to try to be in the best interest of all involved, speaks highly of the county, that forethought, the staff, and the council to try to make sure that everyone's interest is weighed in on the decisions being made. So we understand our task, we understand the weight that it carries, and we understand it's serious business. So with that, I think that we should close the comments.
I agree.
Motion?
I make a motion.
Adjourn. Second. All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, everybody.